Welcome to a tutorial for how the data pack "If you stop moving, you die" was made. In today's video, we will be looking at my development process going from start to finish of making a fairly simple data pack. And the goal of this video is for me to be able to explain the thought processes, different issues that I run into, and all sorts of other parts of the data pack development process that you might not understand or really recognize exist. And in theory, come away with you ending up actually learning some new stuff about how to make data packs and everything related to that. And real quick, I will be developing this data pack using the tool MC Build. I have another video linked in the iCard in the top right. This is a tutorial for how to actually use and install MC Build. It's over 20 minutes long. I highly recommend though that you watch that video before watching this one, or it will be really hard to follow. And in the future, every tutorial that I do will be using MC Build for the coding of it. So I would suggest watching that video. It will really help you if you're planning on watching any of my videos in the future. So with that out of the way, let's jump into the development of this data pack. The first step when making a data pack is to determine what the actual goal of the pack is. So for this one, I want to make it so that if I am currently moving, I will not die. But if I stop, I will die. However, I don't want to make it so that if you're stopped for like half a second, you'll instantly die. I would rather make it so that there is a configurable timer. So maybe some players want to play where if you stand still for 3 seconds, you die. So then a good place to get started would be determining if the player is moving or not moving. Well, how are we going to do that? Well, every player in the world has motion values, and we can actually get these values like so, if we want to look at what my player's values are. So you'll see it's 0.0d and then a really long negative number and then another 0.0d. Okay, so messing around with this for a little bit, I found my first problem. So this is not working. And I noticed if I'm in water, this will store the motion value, and you'll see that the chat stops getting spammed. But as soon as I leave it, even if I'm walking, it's not actually working. So apparently in at least Fabric Minecraft, which is what I'm developing in, this is not working properly. So I need to find a different method. And this is just an example of how in data pack development, sometimes things don't quite go exactly as planned. I thought this would be a bit more simple than it's going to be. So let's figure out a different method. Okay, well, what's another method we could use to figure out if you are moving or not? Well, one of the interesting things about moving is that when you're moving, you should be in a different location than you previously were, right? That's kind of the whole point of moving. So my thought is all we'd have to do is data get entities position. This is my current position value, and this is again 3 doubles. If I were to say like move over here and run this again, you'll notice that my X value here changed, and also that my Y value here changed, or my Z value changed, but my Y value stayed exactly the same because we are standing on the same level. So then in my code, what I could do is I could add, let's say 3 scoreboard objectives. We'll do, I don't know, X position, Y position, and Z position. And then we'll probably also end up wanting 3 more of, we'll call them last. So X position last, Y position last. And I'll show you why we're going to use these in just a little bit. But let's start by storing all of our X, Y, and Z values as scores. So I need these scoreboards because I'm going to be storing my positions for the player into their scoreboard. So to do this, all I need to do is execute, and this again is as the player in their own function. So execute store the result as a score for myself into this scoreboard. So whilst dot X position. And then I'm going to run a data get entity at self position 0. So in game, if you recall looking at this, this is an array. So position, it has 3 different entries, right? We have entry 0, entry 1, and entry 2. So entry 0 is this X value here, entry 1 is this Y value, and then entry 2 is the Z value. So in my code then, I can execute and do a data get for position and then the first entry in the array, which again is this x value here. So if we copy this twice more and then do one for y and then one for z, so again, y and z, now we should, every game tick, be storing my current position. So then back in Minecraft, we can do a scoreboard objective, set display sidebar, was x position, and you'll see this is being stored into the chat, and as I move, it will change. There's one issue with this though. I have to move an entire block for my position to change, because we're not storing any decimal places. So if I go back to my code, I can actually choose how many times I want to amplify this from. Because remember, actually back in Minecraft, when we actually ran this value, there's a lot of decimal places here. There's probably like 12 of them. I don't know. I didn't count. There's a lot, right? We can actually choose to store all of these. So right now, this 55 is actually getting rounded to 56, as you can see. But what we could do in our code, we could add a multiplier here. So we're going to take the current value, because scoreboards cannot store values as decimal places. So instead, we can choose a multiplier of this really high arbitrary number. So if we save this, go back to Minecraft, and hit reload, now we're going to be storing a value that is much closer to the value that we see here. Because by multiplying by the million that we just did, we just moved the decimal place to the right, essentially, right? And then eventually it lands right at this 6 here, by the look of it. Yeah. Oh, it's this 5 here that gets rounded up to a 6. That makes sense. However, what we just accomplished is now a ton more precise system that will detect if I am moving on the x-axis. And we also did this, if we look at the y value, this should also change, like if I jump, and then the z value will change if I go left to right. Cool, so I'm storing my current location, but how does that help me determine if I'm moving or not? Because it's a current location. How do I determine from my current location if I'm moving? Well, that's where our last location comes into play. So in the code, what we have here is storing our current location. But what if we also stored this current location a second time? And that's what these last positions are about. So I could grab all of these, paste them down here, and do something like this. So scoreboard players operation, this lets me do math. I want at self's x position value in this case. I want it to be equal to myself's this value, so was x position. So I want my last position to be equal to this position. And then I can copy this 3 times. I can grab these 2 values, and then also grab these 2 values. So now I have this getting stored here. So in Minecraft, you'll see we didn't really accomplish anything, or at least it won't look like we did, because in theory, these 2 values should be exactly the same. But what we did just accomplish is something really valuable. If we were to check if this value here is equal to this value here before we set them to be equal to each other, what we'll end up doing is we'll check if this value is equal to last game tick's value. So to do that, we could do execute if score of was.x position, or sorry, myself's x position equals myself's was x position last. And if that is the case, we can then run a command, right? And then we can, of course, do what we did last time and copy these 2 over like so. Okay, so now in Minecraft, you'll see if any of the 3 values are equal. So if I stop jumping, the command will activate. So not quite what we want, but we're getting closer. So as of right now, what we have is if any of these values are equal to each other, we run the command. What we're wanting though is if all 3 of them are equal to each other, then we're going to run a command. So to do this, I think the simplest way is actually just to do another scoreboard. So we can make another scoreboard objective. We'll just call this wasd.temp. I already have this in my library, but it doesn't interfere with anything to have the same named scoreboards. And in this case, it's going to all be run in the same game tick, so it shouldn't matter. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to do scoreboard players add myself wasdtemp1. So if the X position equals each other, I get a 1 to my score. If the Y, then I get another 1. But then what I'm going to do is I'm going to scoreboard players reset myself wastemp. And what this should mean is that every game tick, this score will reset, right? That means I can check if the score is equal to 3. So I could here do execute as myself with a scores of wastemp equals 3. And if that's true, I can run a block, right? In this case, I'm going to say hi. So now in Minecraft, as soon as I stop moving, score goes up. But then as soon as I start moving again, now stop saying hi, right? So this is exactly what I'm looking for. We finally got it working. And that's the first step of the operation. Well then, my next step is just to change this to kill myself, and then I'm done with it, right? Well, no, because as we already discussed earlier, this needs to have a proper delay to it that I want to be configurable based on this timer here, or this config here, right? So that means I'm going to need another timer that counts up that should be reset if this is not true, if I start moving again. And then I also want to make sure that I don't just repeatedly die forever when I actually get killed by this. So I'm going to add another scoreboard. We're going to call this movement timer, and this is 19 characters long. So the Datapack Helper Plus throws an error at you. You can have scoreboards of any length, so it's a bit outdated there. So we are just going to scoreboard players add myself this one. And if we save and go back to Minecraft, hit reload on that, at least my chat won't be getting spam now, and we can set the sidebar to that. And if I'm moving, as you can see, the score doesn't go up, but when I stop, score goes up. Now we just need to reset the score if my was.temp value is not equal to 3. So to detect if something is not equal to something, you'll want to use an execute, and then we're going to do unless score, well actually we'll want to do if score at self, because we're going to be checking if my score of was.temp, and we're going to check if it matches 2 or less. And if it matches 2 or less, then we can run a scoreboard players reset myself, and it was movement timer, and that should be all we need. So in Minecraft, you will see as I am not moving, my scoreboard goes up, but as soon as I move, it just disappears. And then as I stop moving again, it goes up again. All we'll need to do is check if this timer here matches the config of death time, which is set here. And so this is remarkably simple. All we need to do is say execute if score of myself's was movement timer, and we're going to say is it greater than or equal to, and then this was called death time, and then the scoreboard name is was.death stop dying settings. I can read, and if these two are matched, then let's for now say die like that, and then go back to Minecraft, and we will see yes, 400 is well above. And so once this reaches 60, you'll see it will start spamming the chat. So then all we should need to do back in our code is run another block here. And in theory, this is where we would put kill myself. In this case, I'm for now, for testing purposes, just going to say you died. And then we're probably going to want a scoreboard reset the movement timer so that I don't get spammed death for a little while. In theory, we should probably also put some sort of cooldown in here for making sure when you click the respawn button that you'll have time to not die. But in theory, this is all we really should need, is a reset for the score and something to actually kill us. So we can try that out in Minecraft, and you'll see, oh, you died. Oh, you died. And if we go back to our code here and pretend that a player changed the config, say to 10 game ticks instead of the 60, when we reset this, we will die way more frequently. And we'll have to continue moving. We only have half a second of being stopped before we die. This would be pretty much unplayable, I believe, because that definitely is not enough time to craft unless you're Dream. And so 60 is probably what we will want to leave it at. But we can test this out in Minecraft. I set it so we can now die, and let's see what happens. Well, I'm dead. This is a problem, though. The scoreboard's increasing even though I'm dead. But in theory, that doesn't actually matter, because as soon as we click respawn, well, we're good again. So this, in theory, is playable. And yeah, that should be all we really need. But we could add a little bit of other cool things if we want to. A good place to start would be to make sure that this can't kill players in creative mode or survival mode. So to do this, we can say game mode equals not creative, game mode equals not spectator. And now if I'm in, well, now I'm dead, cool. But now if I'm in creative mode, you'll see that my timer is not going to increase, and same goes for spectator mode, but adventure mode and survival mode, it will increase. So that at least won't kill people in creative mode. Another thing we could add would be some sound effects. So maybe when you stop moving, it could play something like that. And then if you stop moving for a bit longer, it plays this. And then for just a little bit longer, right before you die, it would play this. However, because our death timer is a variable that can be set in the config, what we'll need to do is we'll need to calculate out when we want to play these sound effects. Maybe we play one at half, and then one at like a quarter time left, and then one at maybe like 5 or 10 ticks before you die. The cool thing is, because we have this config being ran here, we have the score set into the world right here. And so what we could do is we could actually add a few other scores if we wanted to. So we could start by a scoreboard player operation, and we're going to set half timer, or I guess half time, fitting with the name of death time. And then we're going to set this equal, and I guess I should probably grab the right score. We'll set this is score of this equal to death time of that. And then we could do the same for quarter time, and then also probably for like a 10 ticks left time, something like that, whatever. If we actually check this in Minecraft, you'll see now all of them are equal to 60, but if I change the config, I just changed it to 80, you'll see they're now all equal to 80. And so now that we have half time, quarter time, and 10 tick time, these are all equal to this number here, but now we can actually edit them to something based off of this. So what we could do scoreboard player operation, and we're going to say half time of this. We're going to do divided by equals 2 and then a constant. And in my library, I have defined all of the different numbers. And so this is a player named 2, and it has a score of was.constants of 2. And so now I'm basically just dividing this number by 2. And then again, we can do another, but for quarter time. And then we could do another for 10 tick left. And to do that, I'm going to instead do minus equal 10. And so now in Minecraft, you'll see when I reload, we have 10 tick left is going to be 10 lower, so 80 minus 10, 70. half time is equal to 40 now, and then quarter time is equal to 20. But again, if I change the config number, let's change it back to 60, you'll see we'll have a 50, we'll have a 30, and we'll have a 15. So then in the actual, if I'm not moving area where I'm adding to my score, I could do something very similar to what I do to actually determine if you should die or not. But instead of checking if it's equal to my death time, we can say is equal to quarter time. And so instead of a greater than or equal, we only want this to happen once. So we're going to say, is it equal to quarter time? And if it is, we can run a play sound event. And so I already grabbed this command here, and this is the sound that I played earlier. We'll just want to set this to ourself. And then I can do this 3 more times for our 3 other scores. So we have half and 10 tick. And in theory, now if my score increases too much, it will play these sounds. So we can check this out. I need to reload, go into survival mode. And I forgot to actually, change the sound. But in theory, this is working. Okay, so if I reloaded that, now we can see that sounds great, but it is playing when we're dead, so let's see if we can fix that issue. So potentially we could check if the player is dead by looking at what their health value is, because I would presume that if I'm dead, my health value should be 0. We'll see if this is true. So for now, just ticking as all players, just to make sure that this is how it works, I'm going to do execute as at s in nbt equals, and I'm going to say if my health is equal or is 0.0f for a float, then I just wanted to say you are dead. And in Minecraft we can see if that actually works. I legitimately don't know, so wrong button. We shall see. In theory, yes, you are dead. Very cool. And when I respawn, I am no longer dead. Perfect. So then all we have to do for my code here is invert this, right? So we're going to take this MBT value and we are going to say, basically just ignore doing this at all. Execute, we're going to say unless entity at self is at health 0, then we can do all of these checks, right? So in Minecraft now, we will see when I die, my score is no longer increasing. We don't hear the sound anymore. And in theory, that is a finished data pack. We can respawn. I'm going to die. Oh no. I hope you enjoyed that tutorial. It was definitely meant to be a 3 to 5 minute video. It definitely is not a 3 to 5 minute video looking at how many minutes of footage I got. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed, maybe learned something. And if you did, maybe leave a like on the video or subscribe to not miss out on future tutorials, other showcase videos, stuff that I make. And I'll see you guys all in the very next video. Thanks for watching.